Hi viewers, welcome you once again to Micro Learning. This is again Shailaja with you with Chapter 5 Economics of Standard 12. So today we are going to see the continuation of the previous causes of inflation. So now we are going to see effects of inflation. So we have seen various causes of inflation. That is how it is increasing the money supply. Then how it increases the disposable income, then how it frames the cheap money policy, how about the deficit financing, okay, then how about the repayment of the public debt, etc. So today we are going to see an interesting topic, effects of inflation, that is we are going to see 5.5.4. So the first one says effects of inflation. So far we are seeing about inflation, okay, what are the causes of inflation. But now we are going to see what is the effect of inflation. The effect of inflation falls on two great people. That is on production and the other one is on distribution. When we speak about production, for example, when the inflation is supposed to be very moderate, very mild, say around 1%, like that. Okay, actually who is benefited out of it, Producers are very much profited out of it. And slowly what happens? Profit starts rising for the producers. So what happens? They are encouraged to invest. And when investment increases, naturally the employment as well as income increases. But for example, you take on the other side. That is, I said first one is supposed to be a very mild inflation. Suppose we are having hyperinflation in our country. What will happen? Automatically, people have to spend a lot to buy any type of commodity. So, naturally, people will discourage savings here. So, even in the economy, it is as the same. When there is hyperinflation, there is no saving during that time. Producers cannot invest. When producers cannot invest, what happens automatically? That leads to unemployment problem and income thrashes down. So, the value of the money undergoes various changes according to the inflation rate. Sometimes it may even reduce the capital also. And investment will go drastically down, and businessmen have to take so much of risk, and during that time, especially during hyperinflation, they are not ready to take up risk. So sometimes these business people, what do they think about? They think about keeping the money very safely. That is, like we use the word in economics as holding. They keep it very safely. Okay, they do not bring it out into the market, they do not invest on production. So during inflation, the producers have to think a lot according to the level of the inflation. So let us first see what are the effects on production in detail. So when the inflation is very moderate, okay, so when the inflation is very moderate, what happens? Incentives to traders and producers. Okay, who is benefited out of that? Traders as well as producers are benefited out of it. What happens to the employment? Already there is an existence of full employment. So resources are fully utilized. When resources are fully utilized, what happens? Profit arises. Okay, and prices are encouraged. And what happens to the businessman? He tries to invest a lot. This leads to employment and income. Next, we are going to see how about when it is hyperinflation. When it is hyperinflation, what happens? There is depreciation. The value of money, and this discourages savings. Public is not able to save because the inflation is very, very high. where an ordinary man cannot bear anything. So what happens to the value of the money? Value of money is considerably, it is depreciated. And what happened? Foreign capital, what was in existence, invested in the country, is being drained out. Okay, fully we are draining out the money because of hyperinflation. Next one says, when reduced capital accumulates. With reduced capital accumulation, what happened? The investors are going to suffer because of that. And that is going to have an adverse effect on what? On production. And what happens here? This may discourage the entrepreneurs and businessmen. So, you must be very careful with the value of the money. During hyperinflation, the value of the money is supposed to be at the highest. Okay, because people, every money that they are going to spend, they have to think and spend. Next one is, inflation leads to hoarding, because the inflation is too high. So the producers keep it under hoarding. And what happens? Traders as well as the consumers lead to high inflation rate. Next one is, inflation encourages investors. Okay, when it is mild, but when it is hyper, it is not possible. So inflation encourages investors during a particular period. Okay, so these are supposed to be the effects of production. Now let us see what is the effects of distribution. Who is going to be benefited out of it? Now we should know the two terms which is called as the debtors and creditors. During inflation, who is the gainer? Debtors are the gainer. And all of us you'll be knowing who are debtors. And who will be the losers? Naturally it is creditors. So debtors are borrowed. When they have borrowed, when the purchasing power of money was supposed to be high. And now the repayment of loans, what happens? Purchasing power of money is low due to the rising prices. Now how about the fixed income group? Usually during inflation, it is a fixed income group who are very badly affected due to inflation, because those people have to pay interest, rent, and the cost of living becomes very high. So what happened? Naturally the fixed income groups are affected worstly because of inflation. Now let us see about the entrepreneurs. How about the entrepreneurs? All of us know about the trade cycle. When the economy is boom, that is, there is full employment, there is no unemployment problem, all resources are utilized to the greatest extent. During that time, the entrepreneurs are supposed to be the gainers during the boom period. So they have a, thrashing gain. Okay, they have a higher gain, because what happens? The prices are high. So businessman is able to get a boost like a tonic. Okay, and here what happens is, we should know about the businessmen, because it is a severe tonic for the business enterprises. So he gains a windfall gain. So he gains a lot. Okay, and he is supposed to be the gainer during the distribution, that is during inflation. Next is the investors. How about the investors? So investors, you can see, invest in fixed interest yield bonds and securities, have much to lose during inflation. Again I circle that, if we are investors, okay, during the inflation time, they lose in bonds and securities. But suppose if you have invested in shares, what happens during that time? You become the gainer during inflation. Because why? You get a rich dividend out of it. So the value of the and appreciation in the value of shares. So there is a hike in the shares. So you should know what are the effects of production and distribution. So what is the effects on production and distribution because of inflation? Hope you would have understood. Go through once again, so it will be very clear for you. So those who are watching the channel for the first time, please share, subscribe and comment to me. Thank you.